As we brace in anticipation and expectation of a housing market crash, we're also faced with a equally catastrophic event occurring in the rental market, and that is through billionaire investors, big money investors, corporate investors, institutional money, companies like BlackRock, billionaires like Grant Cardone, and other smaller investors looking to get in on the Airbnb rental, leasing, apartment arbitrage side hustle opportunity that is ultimately going to put the housing affordability crisis at the top of the list of America's concerns, biggest gripes, a complete destruction and catastrophic collapse of the American dream. And the folks who are more than likely going to feel the most amount of pain from this all will be the lower income, middle class, working class, poor. Odds are unlikely to ever really get to a point of their lives where they can afford a home, buy a home. This is changing rapidly, and we've got a lot of information to cover here. So folks, please sit tight, buckle up, stay with me here. Let's watch this video all the way to the end, just in case there's a lot of information here that I want to bring to you guys, and I don't want you to misinterpret it. So please stick with me until the end, and we're going to cover a lot here. I ask that you guys give the video a like as always and subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. So the real estate market is in the freezer, but billionaire Grant Cardone says investors will save the day. Let's talk about that. We can see here that the home builders confidence index is plummeted, just the bottom fell out, and we can see it's on an upward trend. Now, why is that? Well, home builders were very, very concerned about their loans, their risk levels, their liquidity, and how over leveraged they were with the shaky housing market, potential housing market crash, hundreds of thousands of, if not millions of American people losing their jobs, mortgage rates going up, and these folks sitting on high interest debt, likely as their construction loans were coming due. So we see the home builder confidence index on the rise. Why? Because we've got statements like these from billionaire Grant Cardone and BlackRock and a variety of others that we're going to cover in this video that are allowing these builders to exude this confidence again, because they know that they have someone that they can sell their product to and not be left with all this inventory that they can't sell, that they have to pay for, or then they have to then find ways to manage these properties, because not all developers are in the business of property management, but a lot of developers are going to be in the business of building homes for property management, which means less home buyers, personal home buyers, more investors, more rentals, and the less likely people are going to be able to own their own home moving forward. You guys know we are currently in an apartment as we moved to Florida, and we were trying to decide if we wanted to stay for good, and if so, where do we want to buy? And we weren't able to execute that. I didn't want to rush it, so we had to renew our lease for another year. But I can tell you guys right now, the clock is ticking, and we need to go ahead and capture our ownership before it's too late. Now, check this out. Economists have been calling for a housing crash for several months. We all know that. Some even predicted that home prices would fall by as much as 30% in 2023, which obviously was a contributing factor to the home builders' confidence decline. But it says here that best-selling author and real estate fund manager Grant Cardone agrees that the housing market is in trouble, but points out that investors will create enough demand to keep the market from crashing. Now, this is where we kind of need to get a little nervous, okay? This is Grant Cardone. This is what he had to say. Banks don't trust borrowers, and those they do trust will have to pay. This will move homeowners to the sidelines and slowly reduce home prices. Investors will step in to pick up single-family homes at lower prices with less competition, and that being said, there will be no housing crash. Investors like myself will save the day and step in to buy the homes, put renters in place, and enjoy them for the cash flow, not the kitchens and the cabinets. Now, comment down below if you're familiar with Grant Cardone. because I'm going to break this quote down for you and explain to you what he's really saying, okay? If you're not familiar with Grant Cardone, this will be new to you. If you are familiar with Grant Cardone, this may not be new to you. And depending on how you feel about Grant Cardone will also play a role in what I'm about to tell you. But please understand that this only comes from an unbiased opinion about Grant Cardone, his investment strategy, and his business models, and what he's really saying here, in my opinion. Banks don't trust borrowers, and those that they do trust will have to pay. The banks don't trust borrowers because we're in an economic crisis. We're heading towards an economic collapse, and many of the traditional home buyers are going to be the most likely to fall behind, lose their jobs, be buried by inflation, wiped out, default on their loans, and ultimately fall into foreclosure. And those that they do trust will have to pay. Therefore, if they do trust you, your credit score is going to need to be high 700s, super high 700s. And even if they do trust you at that point with the available income and limited debt, that means you'll have to pay in high interest rates, okay? Higher than we've seen in the last couple of years. Now, this will move in addition to the selling prices. So on top of the price, because of the appreciation of these home values, because of the competition with these investors coming in and bidding over asking in certain situations, and capturing a large percentage of the market by not only overbidding, but not necessarily having to overbid because they're buying up multiple properties at once from builders and developers. So they get first right of refusal, basically. It says here that this will move homeowners to the sidelines and slowly reduce home prices. And that's exactly what I was saying. It will slowly reduce home prices because the investors are going to come in and buy in bulk. Kind of like shopping at Costco, kind of like shopping at Sam's Club. You get a discount because you're buying more at one time. Investors will step in to pick up single-family homes at lower prices with less competition. Exactly what I just described. And that being said, there will be no housing crash. Investors like myself will save the day and step in to buy the homes. Put renters in place and enjoy them for cash flow, not the kitchens and cabinets. So what he's saying here is that investors are going to come in, they're going to buy properties that they're never going to live in. They're going to put renters in. They're going to profit off these renters through what I'm telling you guys about diversity, security, and cash flow. They're going to profit on cash flow. And they're not going to enjoy the kitchens and the cabinets because they don't care. Grant Cardone has said it before, and he's saying it again here. Rent what you own, buy what you rent. And basically what he's saying is investors are going to come in, they're going to buy these homes, and they're going to rent them out. They don't care what's in them. They only care about the cash flow that they can produce. Additionally, there will be no housing crash, and investors like myself will save the day. This, in my opinion, is a humble brag, okay? This is a humble brag from Grant Cardone for a variety of reasons, but in my opinion, it's to boost his own brand, to entice more followers and more people to buy into his courses and his plans and his strategies to get involved in these investment opportunities. Just my opinion. Now, it says here that Cardone's real estate investment firm, Cardone Capital, has raised over $1 billion from accredited and non-accredited investors across 22 funds since its inception in 2016. And the company's real estate portfolio is valued at roughly $4 billion and consists of nearly 12,000 apartment units across 36 properties and over 500,000 square feet of commercial office space. And he's just getting started, folks. And he's promoting this more and more. You guys may remember that there was a time back when these promotions were actually being done on TV, on television, late night infomercials of how you can invest in real estate with no money. But those were single family units. Those were, single family properties. Grant Cardone has stepped it up a notch along with a variety of other investors and coaches and gurus that now are saying, no, we need multiple doors, multifamily. That's where the money's at. And that's what they're doing. But they're also doing it in the single family format by buying multiple doors at one time. They're not going to go to a builder and say, I want that one. They're going to go to the builder and say, I want that whole neighborhood. And that's what they're doing. And they've got the money behind them to do it. And they're also creating this passive income stream opportunity, MLM, multi-level marketing, Ponzi schemes, setup, layout that is ultimately telling investors they're going to pay them in perpetuity for these, which could potentially work as long as the housing market continues to go up and they don't see a decline in people paying their rent, which is going to be a problem, and I'll explain it later. Cardone isn't the only major investor who sees an opportunity in the current housing market. JP Morgan announced in November that it plans to acquire $1 billion worth of single-family rentals, and other institutional investors like BlackRock Incorporated and Norges Bank increased their positions in single-family housing real estate investment trusts, or REITs, Invitation Homes, and American Homes for Rent during the last quarter. So expect 2023 to see a housing market non-crash, no housing market crash. Maybe you guys watch Michael Bordenero. Maybe you guys watch Reventure Consulting. Maybe you guys watch Scott Walters Realty. Maybe you guys watch Jason Walters. I don't know who you watch. Maybe you watch a variety of real estate channels, Real Estate Ninja. I don't know what they're saying, but it seems like a lot of these channels are promoting a housing market crash, and the housing market crash is more than likely going to be a housing market crash for the single family buyer. They're going to experience a crash because they're not going to be able to get in, and they're going to experience their own crash, okay? But the housing market is not going to crash, and these investors are going to prop it up. And then the tenants, the renters, are going to be the ones that they're going to have to take it on the chin, folks, okay? Now, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos even staked a claim in the single-family rental market by investing in the seed and Series A rounds of the investment platform Arrived Home, which allows retail investors to buy shares of individual rental properties with as little as $100, and the platform has already funded over 200 properties with more than $75 million. So with the continuation of programs like these, allowing investors to get in with very little money, it will allow these organizations to acquire massive amounts of funding from people who can never afford homes, or at least not homes for investment, and give them greater power and ability to capture this real estate and wipe out the single family home buyer, the one trying to achieve the American dream, okay? Now, there's also a growing demand for foreign investors for U.S. real estate. We've covered this in previous videos, specifically those coming out of China, coming in and buying up real estate, targeting Texas, lower income, affordable housing communities, wiping out the ability for American citizens to buy homes. And they're coming with big dollars, paying cash, and they don't care about interest rates. So they get first right of refusal. And the co-founder of the property management company Home 365 told Bazinga last month that his company has seen a significant uptick in foreign investors from economically volatile countries looking for property management services for their purchases of multifamily properties. So you got to realize that China is an extremely volatile country, and they have a lot of folks there that are looking to relocate and basically exile from the country, come over to America by way of boat, airplane, hot air balloon, I don't know what it is. And they're coming over here, and they're not only looking to scoop up this real estate, paying cash, but they're looking to scoop up a lot of real estate and interested in utilizing the services of property management companies, because they're going to then become landlords and own everything and allow everyone else here to rent, or maybe allow them to rent if they can afford it. It's only getting worse, folks. BlackRock is what's driving our business now, is picking individual assets. And these individual assets are the individual homes that some people at one point thought that they may have a chance of owning and buying. And BlackRock is now taking a focus on individual assets. And Ann Valentine Andrews, global head of infrastructure and real estate at BlackRock, says that investors should prioritize specific properties within secular trends in the current volatile market environment. So these prioritizations of these properties and secular trends is going to be in the areas that are unaffordable, that should be affordable. And these are the mobile home communities. These are the large communities of mobile home trailer parks that are going to be bought up by these investors. And then everyone's going to be evicted and kicked out, and then they're going to be scrapped. They're going to break ground, they're going to build up, and they're going to build high, and they're going to build expensive. And gentrification is going to just wipe out these folks that are not earning enough to even consider being homeless in these communities, which is unbelievable to think about. And these will be the lower priced, affordable homes that most lower income and middle class working poor dreamed of qualifying for, okay? Not that they dreamed of qualifying for. I'm talking about these less desirable homes that may be under 150K folks dreamed of qualifying for are now going to be, in neighborhoods with asking prices of $1 to $2 million, only to be purchased to then be bulldozed over, knocked down, and built anew at much, much higher prices. And for those who are thinking, wow, I'm glad I got my home, I'm good, I'm safe. Well, when this happens, what it does is it increases the comp values and the appraised values and the assessed values. So this is a warning to those to expect your property taxes and other costs to increase as well. Insurance, homeowners insurance, replacement costs, they're all going up. And the housing costs are still a big problem. Axios shows this monthly change in U.S. shelter price climbing, up, and up. And the cost of shelter kept inflation stubbornly high in January. The big picture early on is that a segment in which housing is a heavyweight in our inflation numbers, and the so-called core inflation, which excludes volatile food and energy and is a closely watched measure of price trends, was up 5.6% over the last year, according to the January Consumer Price Index release. And shelter costs accounted for almost 60% of that. 60%. Yes, folks, there are remarkably few homes available to buy, and that could keep American home prices from declining. Why are there less to buy? Because they're being sold before they're even done being built from these investors and these large institutional backed investors. And the facts about American housing are pretty clear, folks. Shelter has gotten increasingly expensive over the last few years as prices, rents, and mortgage rates have all skyrocketed. This is a attack against the affordable housing, low income, fixed income, retirees, folks. This is a big deal. BlackRock and other profit maximizers are ignoring the housing crisis. While housing becomes less and less affordable, there is no plan to make homes more available. No, not at all. I mean, more available for rent maybe, but it's less available because their rent prices are going to be so high. Now, housing insecurity and homelessness are rising fast, and due in part to an ever shrinking lot of affordable rentals and homes. Now, we got to talk about this affordable rental situation because Airbnb rental arbitrage is at the center of this. I'm going to tell you guys about that in just a moment. And it says that reasons for this housing crisis, and the most truly terrifying fact is that while housing becomes less and less affordable, there's no plan to make homes more available. And government whose wish is to make those who live on SSI or Social Security even more unstable than they currently are. And you guys know that we're already up against a dangerous situation when it comes to the sustainability and the survival and the liquidity of Social Security. Huge deficit, huge shortfall planned and predicted. The numbers are there. I made a video on it the other day. Y'all need to go check it out. Every day we see these corporate shills threatening to cut or even eliminate entitlements that millions rely on for survival. And it seems that the workforce housing is rapidly disappearing, folks. This is right here. You guys can see it with your own eyes. And I know you can feel it too, because this is happening. This is real world, boots on the ground. This is it, folks. The MoneyWise says that the U.S. government hit its $31.4 trillion debt deficit ceiling, triggering fears of a nasty fallout for Americans. And what I want you guys to pay close attention to here is exactly the harmful ways that it could impact you that tie into exactly what they just said as far as the SSI and Social Security becoming more unstable and knocking out this monthly handout for people that millions of people rely on for their survival. So it says here that, I want you guys to see this. Unable to break the political deadlock in Congress, the Treasury will now take extraordinary measures to ensure that the government can pay its bills. But that, folks, does not mean that you will. Millions of Americans may not be able to pay their bills, and that is a big problem. And here's why. Freezing social support. Every single American could feel the impact, and payments from the federal government that families rely on to make ends meet would be endangered. The public health system, which has enabled this country to react to a global pandemic, would be unable to adequately function, which is very concerning, because if that's the case, and we were to experience another global pandemic, which we've already seen the warning signs of approaching and being told specifically by Bill Gates and other World Economic Forum, WEF, Davos, Schwab elites, this is not good. What does that mean for the individual household? It means that the government could delay various paychecks to help millions of Americans, such as Social Security payments, Medicare and Medicaid, and benefits for veterans. This is not good, folks, okay? This is not good. This is what we're barreling towards, and they are not really painting this picture, I don't think, clear enough on the mainstream for people to really understand what's happening, what they need to be bracing for, preparing for. And like I said, folks, if you guys want the truth, you know where to find it. So market turmoil and skittish investors reacted quickly and the stock market tanked, further disrupting and damaging their savings and their investment and their retirement planning through some of these manipulations and putting novice investors in a panic mode that they know won't buy the dip. So they're just continuously drawing and sucking money and investments and wealth out of this community. And credit card and mortgage rates are another problem. And this means borrowers must pay higher interest rates on their credit cards and card balances. And these and other consequences could trigger a recession and credit market freeze, folks, at a time when millions of Americans need help the most with borrowing money to survive. I can't make this stuff up. It's like this is worse than a movie. They're doing this on purpose to wipe out so many people. And a precious way to protect yourself, according to MoneyWise, this is what they're saying here. I think they're providing some value here with the U.S. balance sheet in such a precarious position in your 401k or IRA, and your retirement itself could be at risk. We all know that to be true, but it's important that we don't panic, okay? Because when you panic, you make rash decisions, and when you make rash decisions, you follow your heart instead of the charts, and that's what they want. They want you to lose your wealth, lose your money, lose your savings, lose your investments. And you could try to adjust your retirement accounts for better protection, but there's a lesser known alternative that could pay off big, folks. And a gold IRA is a type of an individual retirement account that allows you to invest in gold and other precious metals in physical forms, such as coins instead of stocks, mutual funds, and other traditional investments. And it's a great alternative because unlike the US dollar, which has lost 98% of its purchasing power since 1971, gold's purchasing power remains more stable over time. You can see it right here on the screen. Opting for a gold IRA gives you the opportunity to both diversify your portfolio and stabilize your finances, which is what I'm talking about: diversity, security, and cash flow. Okay? Remember that, folks. Go check out Genesis Gold Group, genesisgoldgroup.com, 1-800-200-4653, 1-800-200-GOLD. And, check them out. I'm putting them up on the screen so you guys can see it. You can learn how to protect your wealth today. What is a gold IRA, setting up a gold IRA, and they have tons of resources. So get your free definitive gold guide from Genesis Gold Group, 100% free. And what's most important, like I just told you guys, is an informed investor is the best investor. So if you visit Genesis Gold Group's Resource Center and learn how gold commodities perform against other investment vehicles, essential reading material for savvy investors. We don't want the novice investors that are going to panic with what's happening and then, sell on the dip and not buy the dip and just wipe out any chance that they possibly have, folks. I want you guys to go check them out. Treasuries versus gold, Bitcoin versus gold, annuities versus gold, mutual funds versus gold. There's a growing theme here. There's a constant. You see it. Testimonials of, from Claire McDonald saying that more than happy with Genesis Gold Group. Their staff are so helpful and informative, made it so easy to invest with them. We got Andy Carpenter. My wife and I were very impressed with their understanding of the industry. They made my first purchase a no-brainer. 5 stars across the board. And James Larkham says, I had been considering investing in gold for some time. After researching several companies, I finally decided to work with Genesis Gold Group, and I would happily recommend this company to anyone. Their prices were great, and their specialists made my first purchase a great one. Folks, go check them out, genesisgoldgroup.com. But in the meantime, we need to get back to what's most important here, which is one of the major problems that nobody's addressing is the huge number of rental properties and single family homes that are being snatched up by the nameless, faceless corporations in order to evict longstanding residents, slap a new coat of paint on the walls, maybe purchase a shiny new fridge, and double the rent to a new tenant. there seems to be no limit to the number of houses or apartments that these huge corporations can own, which is exactly what I was talking to you about Grant Cardone's statement earlier. And it says here that according to the Wall Street Journal in 2021, 200 corporations are aggressively purchasing tens of thousands of homes and even entire neighborhoods and jacking up the rents. Go watch Squirrel Tribe. She posted a video from the last time we went to Atlanta and we visited a new home build community. And the agent on site at the model home for the builder told us that an investor came in and bought up half the neighborhood before it was even done. Okay. Now, for example, a BlackRock creation called Invitation Home merged with another outfit. And as of 2021, this conglomerate owns 80,000 rental homes. And in 2012, this outfit, also known as Treehouse Homes, went on a buying spree where they were purchasing $150 million worth of homes every week, up to $10 billion. Writings on the wall. Some of these corporate acquisitions will be sold for well over market value. Over market value. Often the smaller houses that might have been worker housing are considered teardowns and will be replaced with a 4,000 or 5,000 square foot monstrosity. Many others are used to create profit in short-term rental markets. Folks, it's right here telling you this. And then you got to think about the transactions between these investment firms. If they buy overvalued, they're going to sell it overvalued. Then the next investor is going to come in because they gotta move these properties off their books and continuously keep that cash flow flowing. And with each change of hands, we are going to experience higher prices, higher rents, higher lease amounts, higher expenses, higher costs. A reduction in savings, a reduction in your ability to save and invest and grow wealth, and definitely reduce your ability to purchase a home. While housing becomes less and less affordable, there's no plan to make homes more available, and we desperately need a legal framework to make affordable housing possible. Comment down below if you think that's ever even going to happen. With this current administration, future administrations, does it come top down? But then we have them intervening with private business. So do we want more government oversight? What do we do here, folks? And in a comment, from somebody here interviewed, it says that in my small town, a large corporation bought an apartment complex and is in the process of evicting a 90-year-old wheelchair-bound resident. Now, you guys, if you didn't watch my video about the housing affordability and the mobile home and the attacks on the mobile home communities and the lower income and the fixed income communities and the senior 55 and up communities, this is a growing problem and we're going to see more of it. And these folks don't even care who they are, how long they've been there, how old they are, what their situation is, what their disabilities may be, wheelchair bound or not. Get out of I just bought this, get out. I need to flip it and make some more money and you're not paying enough. Get out of here. The idea that you can evict long-term disabled tenants is just disgusting. But guess what? There's no law against it now. So, folks, this is crazy. This is crazy. We got a clip here from CNBC about the Wall Street-backed companies buying up single-family homes. Let's take a look.
For years, John and Angie Collier saved.
Oh, this is nice.
Eager to buy a first home in Fishers, Indiana, attracted by the good schools and proximity to work. But pursuing the American dream has proved daunting.
Oh, sorry, outbid.
Fishers, named by Money magazine one of the best places to live, is part of a national trend as real estate investment groups buy up houses in cash and rent them out, in some cases, to the very families who dreamed of owning them. In January, 33% of all homes purchased in the U.S. were bought by investors, often Wall Street-backed companies with multi-billion-dollar funds. The Colliers currently rent in a town near Fishers from one of the nation's biggest house rental companies. Their rent recently raised 8%.
Good to see you. Come on in.
4 times in recent weeks, they've been outbid by investors with all-cash offers.
It can be, discouraging when you get overbid by, companies.
How do you save when you're spending $2,200 a month just to rent?
So these companies have you on both ends.
Yeah, it's definitely a conundrum.
In some Fishers neighborhoods, investors own more than half of the homes, according to realtor Laura Turner.
This is one of the neighborhoods that investors have really targeted. They're coming in, they're buying it at cash, and then they're going to hold them as rentals.
Fishers Mayor Scott Fadness is frustrated by the surge of distant, faceless landlords.
Have you been able to talk to any of these companies?
It's very difficult. So take, for instance, if you have a high grass and weed issue, a code enforcement issue, I mean, if they own 4,000 homes, who is the individual that you can go talk to about a specific problem?
In a statement, the National Rental Home Council said NRHC member companies own just a fraction of the homes throughout the state of Indiana, and that its 5 largest member companies maintain an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau. Builder Steve Lanes argues rental companies aren't taking away possibilities from families, but in many cases, creating them.
There are a segment of people who are no longer able to buy a home because they can't afford that home, but they don't want to be in an apartment. They're looking for those opportunities to rent in those communities.
After getting outbid time and again, the Colliers say they've given up on Fishers.
Is the American dream still accessible?
I think the American dream is changing. Our society may be going in that direction where we are getting further away from ownership, but I don't think it's the right direction.
I love the screened-in porch.
They've put in a bid on a home in a town farther out, their American dream modified, not broken. Antonia Hilton, NBC News, Fishers, Indiana.
So ultimately, folks, you're going to have to modify your lifestyle, modify your dream, if it's even a possibility. You already see what we're up against here. And then we have this clip that just further confirms what we already knew. But I don't think everybody is really aware of where we're headed and where we're going and what is happening. And, is the American dream shattered? Now more of a nightmare than anything else? The American nightmare, but I guess there is still an American dream, because we have people from foreign countries like China coming over to capitalize on their own version of the American dream. What do you think about that? Now, this is getting worse, folks, and home builders and city officials are welcoming it. They're welcoming it. I'm not saying all of them, but you can't sit here and say, oh, yeah, I wish this wasn't the case. Maybe in this particular town, maybe, but you got to realize that they're looking at it, well, we don't have a high vacancy rate. Our homes are occupied. We're getting tons of revenue from the taxes. Theoretically, maybe some better people living because of the strict requirements of approval and application and credit score requirements and income requirements. They don't want an empty town, okay? And the builders, they want to sell, they want to build, they want to sell, they want to make money, and they want to continue that process. So please don't let these folks fool you, okay? Now, if we lived in a country that actually valued its citizens, housing would be a priority, is what this article here says. What do you guys think? Let me know. And it says that for-profit developers are who is building now, okay? Which they've always been building. Everybody's been building for profit. People don't they don't exert energy and effort and invest their own time and money to not make a profit. Even nonprofits make profit, okay? And in some instances, need to put a couple of token affordable units into a large project. Yeah, they have quotas to meet. We've talked about this before. The whole word inclusion, come on, guys. But frequently, the affordable units are too expensive for many who need homes. And this ties back into what I was telling you guys the other day about the new definition of what affordable will now mean moving forward. I really urge you guys to go check out that video, because it has a lot of valuable information about what the term affordable is going to mean moving forward. And it's not what it once was, okay? The amazing generation of people under 35 is speaking out about opportunity. And the sad part about it, the crazy truth, the reality is that many younger people will never have a chance to own their own home. Plain and simple. Just not going to happen. And states could restrict the number of houses used for short-term rentals, but federal intervention is needed. And what I think is the biggest obstacle to bending the homelessness curve is limiting of corporate ownership of housing. But you got to realize what you're asking for, folks. You're asking for the government to come in, step in, and take control and place limits. And if they can place limits on them, they'll place limits on you. So don't forget that, okay? BlackRock, how the investment giant is manipulating the market and killing the American dream. BlackRock is the world's largest asset manager with over $8 trillion in assets under management, and has been making headlines recently for its growing influence in the corporate world. So this is going beyond just home ownership and rentals, okay, and destroying the American dream. But we're going to get to that. Many have raised concerns about this financial giant's impact on the future of American corporations and the economy. It gets very, very, very concerning here, folks. According to a paper published by the American Economic Liberties Project, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard are the largest owners in 88% of the S&P 500 companies. That's alarming of how much power and control that they have, folks. And this level of ownership and influence has led many to question the role of BlackRock in corporate America. Some have argued that the firm is using its power to push for left-wing political priorities, which can be seen in the just completed third quarter of 2021 alone. And BlackRock opposed many corporate proposals that would have which would have benefited workers and the environment. So they're throwing their weight around. Okay, they're getting what they want. And another area where BlackRock's influence is being felt is in the housing market. And the firm and several other high-powered investment firms have been accused of pushing working families out of the housing market and into rentals. I don't know if it's an accusation. It's the truth. It's what's actually happening, folks. And this deprives them of the opportunity to own a home and build wealth through home ownership. No secret there. This trend is particularly concerning as homeownership has long been seen as a vital component of the American dream and a means for working families to build wealth and achieve financial stability, which you guys know I'm all about, and I want you all to achieve that. But the actions of BlackRock and other investment firms have the potential to undermine this goal and have a detrimental impact on the economy as a whole. Folks, in addition to its impact on the housing market, BlackRock's growing power raises concerns about corporate governance, okay? If they can control more, we don't have a chance, okay? And as one of the largest shareholders in many companies, the firm has significant influence over the decisions made by these companies, okay? And this includes voting on essential matters such as executive compensation and corporate mergers and acquisitions, which means that more jobs lost and working longer and harder for less pay, folks getting paid peanuts. And if they're getting their hand in on mergers and acquisitions, then it's a done deal. It's a wrap, folks, okay? If you don't know what I'm talking about, comment down below. And if I need to go deeper into that, just let me know. This level of influence can lead to conflicts of interest and raises concerns about whether BlackRock is acting in its shareholders' best interest or self-interest, which basically means that BlackRock can kind of come in as a majority shareholder and ultimately take over on these companies and enforce their will, you know, for their own self-interest, not the shareholders, not the best interest of the shareholders. And it also raises concerns about whether the firm is using its power to push for policies that may not be in the best interest of the broader economy, only focused on themselves. Numero uno, number one. Remember what I told you guys. BlackRock's growing power and influence in the corporate world raises several concerns, and the firm's actions in the housing market and its role in corporate governance are particularly concerning as they can undermine the financial stability and well-being of working families and the economy. Folks, I don't know how much clearer it can get, you know? And I want to know what you guys think about this, but ultimately, this is growing. This is growing rapidly, okay? And it doesn't stop with BlackRock, which is why I told you we need to talk about this rental arbitrage. So Airbnb rental arbitrage, in case you guys aren't aware, Airbnb rental arbitrage is a business model that focuses on leveraging other people's properties through sublease agreements and renting these properties on platforms like Airbnb, Vrbo, or VRBO, or HomeAway. And in essence, rental arbitrage hosts will rent properties from the long-term rental market and then resell them on the short-term rental market. So, rental arbitrage is an age-old business model that transcends almost every industry in the world. And in theory, it's a very simple buy product A, turn it into product B, then sell product at a higher price. Because of the simplicity of the business model, the Airbnb community has widely adopted it. And in fact, you have probably stayed in an Airbnb that was operated as a rental arbitrage unit without even knowing it. So what does this do? Okay, let me explain to you what this does, okay? It provides little upfront investment needed, little risk, and you can scale quickly with less bookkeeping headaches. But what does this do? Okay, so what this does, let me explain this to you. What this does is it takes the unaffordable housing, the limited unaffordable housing that is available, and then it brings in investors to purchase these homes for 100% investment purposes of renting. The home ownership dream for actual living in a home is pretty much being wiped out as we speak. Then what do? They raise the price on what it would cost to rent it, and they raise the qualifications and the requirements of renters, making it much more difficult for folks trying to achieve the American dream to make this happen. So then you have other investors coming in capable of renting and being approved in the application process, renting these higher price expensive units to then put on Airbnb, to then make insane amounts of profits on short-term rentals only, now making neighborhoods way, way more unaffordable than ever, not allowing people the ability to even have the opportunity to rent long-term like they would need to until they could potentially put themselves in a position to buy a home. No, we are literally moving towards a BlackRock owned, investor owned, Airbnb host owned, short-term rental community only, especially in high demand cities and popular cities that are literally going to squeeze the life out of the working class poor, the middle class, the folks living paycheck to paycheck, trying to achieve the American dream. And, some of these folks behind this all are not even US citizens.